Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Pod Strickland. I'm your host, Shwinny Poo, and this is episode 529. I am joined by not a first time guest, first time in a little while, not even a long time. His name is Kris Pursiainen. He is an associate editor, I think that's the title, at Clutch Points, and a contributor at Knicks Film School. Kris, what's going on? How you doing?
Hey, what's going on? First time, long time. Now excited to be here as always, and it's very exciting that there's basketball tomorrow. Um, Obviously, WNBA playoffs have been getting me through the end of the dry period, but I'm just about ready to have both leagues going at once. So we're gonna get some nice overlap here between the finals and Abu Dhabi.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. It's possible that by the time the Knicks tip off, there will be no more baseball in New York for the rest of the year. We'll have to see what happens tonight. But we're not here to talk about stickball. We're here to talk about basketball. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Knicks. But before we do that, I do have to make a few announcements. First, that the Strickland has a YouTube channel where if you're watching this right now, please hit like, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment. That'd be a huge help to us. The Strickland also has merchandise you can find on our website at www.strict.land. There's a link to take you to our merchandise store. All kinds of cool stuff on there, like t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, coffee mugs, water bottles, you name it, we got it. Strickland also has a Patreon, which you can subscribe to. There are a number of different tiers. A $6 tier that gets you access to Pod Strickland, podcast that I host in front of Prez. You also get access to Takes from Obvious Moses, podcast hosted by Andrew Steele, aka Doug, along with Zach Blatter, and you get access to the Strickland Discord, where the conversation and the emojis never stop. There are further tiers. There's a $9 tier that gets you access to Strickland Roll, the pod that I host with YC, where we rant and read about the next even more. You also get access to wonderful premium articles, and you get access to Strictly NFL, which you guessed it was a podcast about the NFL that is hosted by Konstantin Metrikos and Desmond Novak. There are further tiers. There's $15 tier, $30 tier, $50 tier, and a $100 tier that's going to a variety of additional benefits, like listening on the pod recordings, merchandise discounts, and even potentially co-hosting a podcast alongside yours truly one day when you choose to subscribe. And none of this would be possible without our wonderful sponsor, FanDuel, the best place to place your bets if you want to partake in such activities, which many of us do, especially during football season and certainly during basketball season. Okay, well, let's get to it. The Knicks are in Abu Dhabi right now. They're practicing. They're doing training camp things. Like you mentioned, they have a preseason game tomorrow. That's at noon Eastern here. I wanted to get into, look, there's been a lot of discussion about how the Knicks are going to fill out the roster. We know, obviously, it's already been, not reported, it's done. The Knicks have Landry Shamet. They have Malcolm Brogdon on Exhibit 9 contracts right now. At some point, those are expected to become veterans minimum additions to the roster. They have space for one as things stand, but to make space for the second, they would need to trade somebody. You, I believe, on September 12th, is that correct?
Sounds
that
right.
was when you, I think that's when you reported initially that you had heard that, the Knicks were doing some due diligence things with regard to seeing what was out there for various players in the team. Most kind of straightforward were the second-year players. So Pacome Dadier, Tyler Kolek, Ariel Hukporti, another one, and also Deuce McBride. All of this, obviously, because to roster the second veterans minimum player, Brogdon, whoever, they would need to trade one of those guys. That was something that's been reported, I think, also by Stefan Bondi. I believe I think that Fred Katz talked about that on his podcast at one point in the last couple of weeks. And today, James Edwards of The Athletic also reported on this. I guess just to go back to your initial reporting, look, I'll just put my cards on the table. To me, this is like very straightforward. If you want Brogdon on the roster and you already signed Jordan Clarkson and you have Jalen Brunson and you have Deuce McBride, who we know is not the greatest point guard in the world, but can do it if need be, shouldn't Tyler Kolek just probably be the one that you make that you move out?
Yeah. I wrote in my story, like you said, back on it was the 12th of September. that he's 24 and has not really, been driven off the lot to that extent. You know what I mean? He has a clear set of skills and limitations. And the only way to figure out if those sets will end up correlating with a successful NBA career are to let him push boundaries and test limits. How much is too much? Find those things out. It seems like with Brunson, McBride, could throw Bridges if he's the starting two, nominally. Clarkson, like you said, it makes sense for Kolek to be the odd man out. Other Knicks beat writers have intimated that they think the Knicks would get more for other players than they would for Kolek. They have also intimated that teams are more interested in other players, namely Dottier and McBride, than they are in Kolek.
I too would be more interested in other players that are probably better and have higher upside.
People these two things are being said, and the takeaway from people who I don't blame, but who are seemingly looking to connect dots, the takeaway seems to be the Knicks are more likely to trade Dottier or McBride than Kolek. I've never seen anyone on the beat say that, outright, flat out. That's not real. They're not more likely to trade anyone than anyone else. They're likely to make a move. Bondi had that first. I've confirmed it. Also reported that Malcolm Brogdon and Landry Shamet had offers from other teams, but chose to sign with New York. They signed non-guaranteed deals. Whether those other offers were guaranteed or non-guaranteed was not part of the report. What was part of the report is that they chose to sign with the Knicks over other teams, something that Malcolm Brogdon himself confirmed recently when talking to, I believe, Bondi and the Post. So
he said something along the lines that he had offers from other teams, but that New York was pretty high up on his list because he wanted to compete for a championship. I think more or less.
So, and I was just talking about this with Gavin Shaw. It makes sense that in the first full offseason, since the offseason where the Knicks, known for their depth, traded 2 of their top 7 rotation guys for 1 player, a starter and a key reserve, arguably the 6th man in DiVincenzo.
And a guy that was a starter for them. He had been a starter.
So the 2-for-1 that happened literally on the eve of media day, they had to sneak Carl in the back of the Tarrytown facility because he wasn't legally on the team yet. And they couldn't do pictures or anything. They just showed him around. And then those headshots came in later on a different day, Zach was, outside whoever owns Getty Images house in a black surveillance van waiting for those to drop.
Zach doesn't go out. Zach doesn't go outside.
It makes sense that in the first full offseason since they made that move, they added depth. That shouldn't be shocking. It also just goes along with what I said I was right about here on the screen with you and Tyrese on each side, telling you guys about at the trade deadline, how the fact that the only move was Sims for DeLon Wright indicated that what I had heard was correct, which was that the Knicks did not believe that last year was an imminent open window championship year. The plan was for this season, the 25-26 season, the 26-27, and ostensibly, potentially, hopefully, something in the middle of those 3 words, the 2028 season. That's the window. Now, did the Knicks, by making it to the conference finals, being one of the 4 teams remaining of the 30, kind of fling that window open and say, hey, actually, forget this offseason. This baby's open right now? Yes. I don't want to say they didn't win. They didn't lose the Boston series because of the Tatum injury, because it was about to be 3-1. But in a year where Tatum went down, Halliburton, with hindsight, went down. Yeah, it makes sense that they were able to pry that window open. You know, if you're looking back years in the future and thinking, oh yeah, they did make it kind of far that first year. But it's like I thought the coaching change was the ultimate signifier that this was the start of the we're all the way in now. Like Jerry Jones, I'm all in. You know, so now it's time for one of the great athletic minds of our time. But no, now it's time for go time. And so that means maybe parting ways with someone like Kolek in favor of someone like Brogdon. And while in theory, you know, Knick fans, if you told a Knick fan from any year in the last 15 that the team was trading a promising young guard that they, you know, kind of pulled some strings to draft before even really giving him a shot on the court for a veteran with an injury history, you would have been like, of course they are, because that's the Knicks and that's what they do. But in this instance, it's kind of a lot different. The Knicks drafted 4 rookies in part because of Brock Aller's cap hullabaloo shenanigans that enabled them to trade for Bridges and Towns in the same offseason. So these rookies, like they needed 4 rookies on the roster. Jeremy Cohen went in depth on this for KFS. Like it was the only way for them to get to the league required minimum amount of players was to have rookie salary slots, filling those slots up. So, you know, looking now at the landscape, like, yes, the Knicks have gotten offers for second year players. You know, that the group is Hukporty, McCullough Jr., Dadier, Kolek. That is true. It is true that they are seemingly going to deal one of those players. That's the expectation on both the team and agency side of things. That the expectation, I can tell you, is that the Knicks will make a move here. But I think in all of this dot connecting, something got kind of lost, which is just because McBride and Dadier have generated the most buzz does not mean that they are the most likely to be traded. That would be true if we were operating with the assumption the Knicks will make the trade that nets them the most in return. But that's not necessarily what they're trying to do. The Knicks are trying to open a roster spot. So if they're going to trade a player and not get a player back, wouldn't the player that's air quotes worth the least around the league make the most sense to trade? You sell low on a stock that you had 5 shares of, not a stock that you had 500 shares of. Like if you have to sell something, if the law comes to you and says you have to make a sale in the market today, minimum 5 shares, you're going to go pick some penny stock that you have 1 million shares of and sell 5. You're not going to take one of your big long-term positions and be like, well, we got to clear a roster spot. So sorry, Carl, but hope you like Utah. Like something got lost in translation there. And I'm not saying I'm guaranteeing that Kolek will be the one to be dealt. Why? Because if someone around the league makes an offer that knocks the Knicks' socks off, maybe also their knickerbockers off, then
nice. Well played.
But then then yeah, maybe they'll look into that. Maybe they'll do that instead. But we don't actually know, and they're not playing some game of like who can we get the most back for in a trade that isn't in the rotation. So yeah, I kind of went on 3 different soapboxes there, but in short, I liked that you said, you're going to put your cards on the table, because with those cards, we came to actual real conclusions, as opposed to this article says this, and this aggregatory tweet says this, and this misquote from an article says this. So I think Mitchell Robinson is going to get traded to the planet Mars. It's like, what? How did we get there?
And NBA Central said this. We have some comments I want to get to, but just want to ask you. So I've kind of, as I've been reading and following the reporting around this stuff, my sense has always been that one, just reading the tea leaves, again, if you added Clarkson and you want to bring in Brogdon, and at the trade deadline last year, you traded for Delon Wright, who immediately was put into the rotation above Tyler Kolek. Now, of course, we know that maybe that might have been a Tom Thibodeau thing. Either way, the fact of the matter is you brought in a journeyman last year, and I think the Knicks did that to bolster their depth. Like I think they liked that. I think they knew that Mitch Robinson was coming back. They knew Jericho Sims had zero future with the Knicks and really wasn't going to be a factor at all the rest of that season. And it was like, hey, like let's just go get another perimeter player who's pretty good on defense. Yeah, questionable shot, but let's just go do that. That to me, that's three different kind of veterans minimum guards that you've brought in. I just think that just shows like, yeah, maybe look that you draft Tyler Kolek thinking, hey, we really like this guy, whatever your projection is for him. Things can change in a year. And I think it's better, like you're always better off in almost every scenario eating a mistake as soon as you realize it's a mistake versus being like, well, maybe it'll turn around. Maybe they don't think Tyler Kolek is a mistake. Maybe they think that, hey, he's just not going to be good enough in the time frame that we need, and Malcolm Brogdon will be. Maybe it's just that simple. It doesn't really matter to me because if the evaluation is ultimately that Malcolm Brogdon is more valuable to your odds of winning a championship this year than Tyler Kolek, then you should do that because the Knicks are in a contention window. But as I've been reading this, right, so the Kolek thing just obviously stands out. But then everything else, I think the Dadier stuff and the Deuce thing, I think is just flat out nonsensical. Like a lot of the concern that I've heard people kind of talk about is like, well, he's up extension eligible in January and the Knicks they can't pay everybody, which like technically they can actually choose to pay everybody if they want to pay everybody. But like, they can't pay everybody and it makes sense to move him before that becomes an issue. And I'm like, I'm sorry, it's a championship window. I don't see how the Knicks are in the mindset of this is a championship window. Let's trade our best point of attack defender. And arguably, like, your only one other than Mikal Bridges and OG, who, like, I don't know how much you really want them always having to defend the point of attack. But your best point of attack defender, as far as I'm concerned, because he's going to get a real salary 24 months from now in the year 2027. Like, that doesn't really make any sense to me. And then the Dadier thing, and this is just my sense of it, and this is what I tweeted today, is my sense of it, just reading the articles and everything, has been that it reads to me a lot like the reporting around Emmanuel Quickley during the end of his second year, early parts of his third year, where it was like, yes, they're talking to other teams about him, but to me, this feels a little bit more like we're on a fact-finding mission to figure out what his value is around the league versus we are actively looking to ship this player. And like you touched upon, like, nobody's off the table really other than like Jalen Brunson, right? Like, I think they would have a conversation or at least listen on anybody else. Just because you listen doesn't mean that like anything's going to happen. But let's just say, forget Dadier, right? Let's say like they probably don't want to trade Josh Hart right now, right? But if a team came in and was like if the Rockets, for whatever fucking reason, were like, we'll give you Tari Eason and one of the Suns picks, like, yeah, the Knicks might probably be like, okay, yeah, I guess we'll have to do this. The point is, you never know when it
exactly.
Yeah, you never know when a team's going to make an offer that blows you out of the water. Like, I don't think they're actively shopping Dadier, but unless you listen, what if there's a team out there that loves Dadier? Let's say Utah loves Dadier, and they're like, we'll give you, one of the unprotected Lakers pick for him. Like, okay, like, whatever. But like, you never know until you listen.
It was right there.
and I do think that like there is a purpose to there is a value to simply listening. I think that's the job, really. And yeah, so for me, the Dadier thing has come across more like they are trying to figure out how does the league view this player? What is the kind of value that he is worth? And does that match up maybe internally for what we have? Or does the value that we get back for him exceed all kind of expectations to the point that you're forcing our hand here, and we have to trade Dottier because the value is too good. That's what it's come across to me. I still have not really wavered on like. I just think it's like sometimes I feel like a lot of times we as basketball fans want there to be like some
Grimes
5D
QO.
like just like this huge unforeseen big time
no,
chess move that like
I'm saying like Grimes QO like right now.
Nice. Good for him. Good for him, man. I mean genuinely like he's not my favorite player in the world, but I would have taken the qualifying offer too, considering the dog shit offer the Sixers were giving him. But like the just I don't know. I'm rambling here, but I just think the Dottier thing has again come across to me very much like all the reporting that we had around quickly around the end of his second year, early parts of his third year, where it was like, I don't know. I when I remember reading it at the time, and I was like, I don't know. To me, this reads a lot more like, yeah, maybe we want to trade this guy down the line, but right now we're more just trying to see what his market is. Like, maybe they want to trade Dottier, but maybe they need a certain price, and that price isn't being met, which is like kind of what happened with Quickly, right? Where it was like, well, we might trade this guy, but not until the price makes sense. And obviously, at some point in time, the price made sense when they could get OG Anunoby and get off RJ Barrett's contract, even though, we know he's a happy camper because he's playing in the greatest for the greatest team in the world where there are no egos and only everybody cares about winning. Yeah, and everybody cares about winning. So congrats to RJ Barrett, who can again go fuck himself for those comments.
I was gonna say you seem to feel totally not strongly about that. Anyway, what I was gonna say was
I just think it's shit. I just think it's shitty. Not because I'll say it again. I don't like when guys shit on like ex teammates, and that's what I thought that was. I didn't care about the like whatever you want to say about the organization. Go for it, you guys. You get traded. It is what it is. I don't like the insinuation of those comments, especially given like, yeah, man. Everybody else had egos, but definitely not you.
I think it's always tough when a team takes off as soon as you leave. I don't think it's his fault the team took off as soon as he left. We kind of, you and I had been, you and I had been friendly for years by then, and we were both in agreement that like RJ is probably not in the best situation playing between Brunson and Randall for what he's good at. So and listen, it is given what he's good at, would putting him in the best situation for that result in winning, or would you have a D'Lo Nets type of team? Like that's the big question.
Or a Scotty Barnes Raptors team, maybe even some are.
I know. Some have noticed. But no, so like I'm not gonna say it's all on Barrett. Like that's impossible to say. And also, look at what he's done in Toronto. Like, I'm not trying to say he's gone out there and won the, NBA Cup or anything close to or better than that. But I think if you asked the average Knicks fan that really wanted him out of town how he would do in Toronto, I do not think they would have projected him to have the end of the year that he did. Like efficiency wise, it was better than I think what a lot of people were expecting. And also given the personal tragedy he suffered in that time, like I was really impressed by the resolve from him. Sometimes life throws you into the fire, and as soon as you think you're getting numb to the pain, they turn up the heat. And it's like, he seems to be toughing through. So that's really impressive. What I was going to loop back to is like in that time with those Quickly trade talks, I remember like not ever officially reporting really, but like putting out in tweets or hinting on podcasts. Like I know for sure that the Clippers were interested in trading for Emmanuel Quickly. And when they could not, they went with John Wall. If you remember that like acquisition for their bench unit. I remember the Minnesota Timberwolves being a team that was interested in Emmanuel Quickly, and at least when talking to New York about it, gave off the sense that they felt like there could be something with a Quickly Edwards duo, not as not
a Quickly Edwards trade, to be clear.
So they're not saying like, hey, IQ and Ant, that's the whole team. Everyone else, get out the way. But like, given the different moving pieces they have, would IQ be a good backcourt complement to someone like an Anthony Edwards? I'd say yes. I think you would say yes as well. So that was something that was going on. Like there were some different teams. I remember saying at one point, I'm trying to remember what I said so that I'm not just
Chicago,
like spilling.
Chicago, I know, is a team that had interest.
100%. So those were three teams that I named.
I think Miami also, but they're like the Knicks are never trading. They're just two teams that are never going to trade with each other.
And I don't think I named the Heat back then. I remember saying it would be about like 10 teams that had sent offers or had legitimately like pestered the Knicks about trying to figure out a value there and things of the sort. So like what happened? It didn't. No trade happened. It took months for that opportunity, for when the team decided they were going to move off of Barrett. Then they did it at the same time. As they moved quickly, and they did it all in one, and they got OG Anunoby without giving up a first-round pick, when just about a year and a half before that trade, they were offering up to 3 protected first-round picks for Anunoby. So, the final trade being Achua, Flynn, and Anunoby for Barrett, Quickly, and Jonathan Mobo, I think worked out for both teams in the sense that like they both went in the direction they wanted to go in. Or I think people get it a little wrong when they call it a win-win trade, is the Raptors were not necessarily trying to go in a winning direction. So technically a win-win, but like the point was that they'd lose a little bit, and be able to retool and get a good draft pick and build around Scotty. All of this was to say that if a report comes out tomorrow, if Ian Begley reports tomorrow that all 29 other NBA teams have made substantial offers for Pacom Dadier, it still might be like someone else that gets dealt, right? Like someone reporting that teams are interested in a player is not them reporting that team's probably going to trade that player. So I think we have to be careful about how we translate these reports and connect dots. Like reporters, myself included, pick their words carefully, I would hope. So it's tough when people try and stretch them, which is not anyone's fault. Like people are just trying to connect dots, but we have to make sure that we're connecting dots and not like being like, well, this speck of dust on the paper, if you connect it to the rest of the dots, makes the shape of a diamond. Are they going to make a trade with the Las Vegas Aces? Like, well, maybe not,
Yeah. I mean, look, like FanDuel right now has the Knicks as plus 1,000 to win the finals. They are plus 340 to win the conference. So like, they're the second favorite to win the conference. They are the fourth favorite to win the title. Like this is very obviously, as the Knicks have correctly adjudged, this is a contention year for them. Like they obviously and very clearly have a pathway to winning a championship. I just can't imagine that any move they make, like, I know this sounds stupid, right? But like, I think we both agree Tyler Kolek almost has zero chance of materially impacting their ability to win a championship while on the roster, like this year. Like, I just don't see it because of the guys that are ahead of him.
I would argue that, and I'm not trying to speak this into existence. I'm actually like, if you know me, I'm the guy with the chud t-shirt that's like, I hate when the opposing team star gets injured, but like so I'm like not that person, but like if Brogdon say got hurt in camp because his deal is non-guaranteed,
right?
I think that's a clearer path for Kolek to have that kind of leverage on the team's success than anything else, right? Like right. It would have to take something unexpected. So I totally get where you're coming from, and yeah. I'm not at all trying to write off the skill set of Tyler Kolek. I don't know if people remember, but I kind of like pounded the table for New York's front office to draft him all of last offseason because I thought the fit was great. And by year 2 or 3, he could be something in Tom Thibodeau's rotation. But it's also just, it's go time now, right? It's go time.
Yeah. Well, we got a comment here related to this from Huck Frazier. Thank you for the super chat.
That's a good name.
Also, feel free for anybody else who wants to send a super chat. Much appreciated. LAC concerns about Brogdon's injury led to the Boston trade
fan
collapse.
caller ass nickname.
Hasn't played 40 games since 28% 3-point percentage last season. Poor man's Fournier worth more than Kolek? Question. I will answer this first. The injury concerns are real. I also think like they're somewhat protected in a way because like I think Clarkson and Brogdon, I don't want to say they're the same player. I don't think they are. I think they have very significant differences in how they play, even
They're
if some of like
their Darko
even if
career projections are like this though. Like it's literally right now they're on the same downturn. That's like the same slope, the same.
Yeah. And I think I just think their output is achieved in somewhat different ways stylistically, even if it's similar. But like,
for sure, it's big in an egg versus potato and sour cream, and being like this is breakfast. Like it's different.
Yeah, and I think that yes, Brogdon's injuries concerns are real, but because you have Jalen Brunson, and then you have a player like Clarkson, you almost can live with that potential because you are somewhat protected. And what I think you really need to ask yourself is if I'm the Knicks and my goal is and my belief is this team is good enough to win a championship this year. Am I worried that if I trade Tyler Kolek, he is going to go elsewhere, and in a year, 2 years, whatever, we're going to look back at that and be like, holy shit, this guy is making us look so stupid for having dealt him this early. Personally, I don't see it. I think Kolek is pretty close to a ceiling. Even if you think he's going to shoot better from the field, which I do think he will shoot better from the field, I don't think he's like ever going to be a high upside shot creator. And I don't think he has the athleticism or the ball handling to be a consistent dribble penetrator, which is a pretty significant issue when his best skill set, which is passing, and he is a phenomenal passer, needs that. It needs to be married to that to kind of fully leverage it. So that's that. To me, I think he's pretty close to the ceiling. And so like, do I think trading him is going to come back to bite me? Probably not. And then the other part of it is, okay, let's say we know Brogdon for sure is only going to play 40 games. Okay, but what are those 40 games? And in those 40 games, is he going to help me win? Is he going to be available in the playoffs? And do I trust him if I need to lean on somebody in the playoffs? Like, hey, we need somebody right now to run the offense with Brunson off the floor. We need somebody to give us extra ball handling, dribble penetration, whatever the case may be. Do I have more faith in Brogdon to do that than Tyler Kolek? Like, I don't even know that I need to answer that question because I feel like the answer is very straightforward. Yes, I do. I don't think Malcolm Brogdon's a perfect player. And yes, if the Knicks are depending on him in the playoffs at a high level, like that's probably not a great place to be. But I also think he almost unquestionably is a better option in 2025, in the 2025-2026 season to try to win basketball games at the highest levels of competition than Tyler Kolek will be. And that's all
it's about.
Yeah,
that's all it's about.
To matter to the Knicks more than anything. And like again, like if Kolek was a higher upside prospect, like I'm not super high on this guy, but let's just say for argument's sake, the Knicks had Rob Dillingham instead of Tyler Kolek. That's a different question, right? That's a different level of prospect you're talking about. Or like Reed Shepherd, right? This is kind of like the Reed Shepherd thing for the Rockets, where it's like, could they trade Reed Shepherd and pick X to immediately replace Fred VanVleet with somebody that's a little bit more legit? Probably. But like they 100% view Reed Shepherd as long-term potential as like to be a significant contributor. And if that is your projection for that player and you think that they have the ability to reach that, that changes the calculus on how willing you are to put them in trades, even if the return could help you win a little bit more right now. Like, do I think trading Pacome Dadier and getting whatever you get back for him and rostering Brogdon instead is a horrible move only in the lens of trying to win in 2025-26? No. But I think Pacome, just given his physical tools, given his size, and given the fact that, we've had Fred Katz report that, like Deuce McBride, one thing they have liked about Pacome is, even though the shooting hasn't necessarily translated yet into NBA games or whatever, that in their tracking in the building, he shoots at a high clip. And I think when you kind of marry that with the physical tools and the fact that he was drafted as a prospect, right? As a project, I should say. He was drafted as, hey, this guy is like something in theory, and that theory might not be actualized for a couple of years, but you got to wait a couple of years. You're going to have to wait a couple of years before it happens. Just given all of those things, it makes it, I think the difference between moving on from Kolek and moving on from Dadier, for a Brogdon, it's a very material difference.
Yeah, it's different. Either move would be win now, right? I think even just the position that each player plays, if all else was equal, would still make Kolek the choice, right? Because the Knicks have some true wings in Bridges and Anunoby. They have a wing in the wings in Kevin McCullough Jr. Pacome Dadier would be the other. When it comes to guards, we went through that list twice. So it's enough. Now add in the
also
fact
this is very minor. I just want to bring this up. It's very minor. But as Nemo mentioned, he's also buddies with our latest pick, which is Mohamed Diawara. Pacome and Diawara are pals from France. But no, I mean, I think that is at least something minor to consider if you're kind of trying to build something up. But yeah, I mean, yeah, sorry.
No, I get it. So and what I was gonna say too is then add in their ages, then add in their pedigree, then add in however you want to spin it, the fact that New York wasn't 100% sure that they'd be able to get into the top of the second round to trade up for Tyler Kolek. And they took Pacome Dadier with that first round pick. Maybe it was exclusively because Dadier was willing to take less than the rookie scale designated deal at that, at that.
Can I also say that, I feel like if they had picked Tyler Kolek there, I'm pretty confident he would have been like, that's fine. Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, right. But they picked Dadier.
Right.
They picked Dadier. So that signals to me, this is very animalistic, simple analysis, but there was no guarantee they got back into the early second. If they didn't get back into the early second, they would have had Dadier and not Kolek. That means that was an outcome that they were okay with, right?
They're higher on Dadier. They picked him ahead of him. It's very simple.
Yeah, I think that's it, right? There's some situations where they took Rokas Jokubaitis 2 picks before they took Miles McBride. And the reason they did that is because they felt that McBride would be there at 34 or 36. They felt that Jokubaitis was a flight risk at 35 or whatever, or someone else might trade in, just whatever was happening. That was the calculation they made. I think there's enough picks between Dadier and Kolek.
Yeah.
25 and 34, right?
It's different rounds. That's a big difference. It's just a different round.
Right? They took the quarterback in the back of the late first, and then they still like the DB they got in the early second, but when it came down to it, the market said what it said, and they were fine making a decision, just getting that quarterback if it meant losing out on that corner. I now realize that quarter and cornerback were probably the worst 2 positions I could have chosen for that analogy. Sorry, in retrospect.
But also for you, not the 2 worst positions the Giants have on the roster now, with Jackson Dart starting. So good for you.
Oh, corner is still up there. So don't worry.
Corner, but not both.
Don't you worry about that, man. Don't you? They're doing just bad enough out there in the defensive backfield. Don't worry. They're still bad.
So I think we've kind of done we both agree on the state of the roster. We'll see what
We
happens.
tangoed.
Like you mentioned, yeah, I think it's fair to say, and you brought up a good point, which is that like they probably aren't going to make any move until the very, very end of preseason because, like you said, like if Brogdon
why
has
would
some
they?
season-ending,
Why
they don't need to. And if Brogdon has some like season-ending injury, it's like, okay, well, we're not rostering him, so Tyler Kolek, like you get to stay on the team, like whatever. It's better to just see how this all plays out. I brought this up too.
I accidentally became important at work.
Yeah. Well, like what if like it's also like what if Dadier and Kolek have like amazing preseasons or something, and even if you still want to move one of them, it's like their stock presumably might be higher at that time. So
you'd get more than if you unceremoniously trade. Also, like I don't know. Everyone should know this at this point, but like if you call 5 of your friends and say, "Hey, again, I am not likening players to shoes. Let me make that very clear right now. It is an analogy for the sake of the psychological aspect of it, the logic of it. If you call 5 of your friends saying, "Hey, I got this pair of Jordans. I swear I only wore them once. Do you want them for $40 below retail?" Your friends are going to figure out you're strapped for cash. And assuming that they have any business sense and are not in the charity business, they're going to offer you a dollar amount that is lower than what you asked of them before just magically meeting your price and paying up. If the friends talk to each other before you sell the shoes, you're screwed. Because now they all know you're strapped for cash and they know that they can play off of each other. You know what? You get my point here. Like I'm not saying I have a group of close friends that's constantly trying to scam me for my Jordan 5s. My point is more so that like the Knicks are also not trying to as much as everyone hates this. I know everyone wants him to do this, but Leon Rose actually isn't going to stand up in front of like the country that he's in and the UAE and be like, I am going to trade one of the young players before the season starts. They will go to the highest bidder. Please offer minority stakes in your franchises for Tyler Kolek. And everyone's going to be like, oh, they really need to trade someone. They're going to attach a pick now. They're not getting crap from us. So, you know, like I would, this is total speculation. I have nothing to back this up. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Knicks were now not able to get as much as they were initially offered in that report that I put out saying they had received a trade offer for one of their second-year players in that week that I wrote the article. I wouldn't be surprised if that team had less of an offer now, that like it's clear that they're either going to make a move or they're not. And if they're going to make a move, it's going to be a move some team wants to take advantage of. So, you know, like I could see that. You know, you make a nice offer on a house and it sits for a little bit. You're going to say, okay, well, I'm not going to bid against myself here.
Do you want to tell us who that second-year player was?
I didn't specify in the article for a reason because I don't want, especially with a contending team in New York City, for a bunch of 23-year-olds to feel like someone their age is actively trying to ship them out of town, even though like most people would know that's not what's happening. I wouldn't blame a player if they saw my name's in trade talks. The hell did I do? Who the hell is this guy? So that's kind of not the reputation I want to build up for myself. So I hid the name on purpose, but I think it's really obvious from all the reporting that's been done from myself and other members of the Knicks beat that of the 4 guys that are second-year players, Dadier and Kolek are the 2 that are seemingly at the forefront of the conversation. One, maybe more because he's worth the most of the 4. He was drafted first of the 4.
Right.
Would make sense. And maybe for a second reason, because as we said, Tyler would have a great opportunity somewhere else if the Knicks were to make a move that he probably would not be able to be afforded in New York. So if you want to do the ultimate, you know, heartwarming route of the Knicks, will collaborate with Tyler's camp there, and they believe in him, so they want to see him actually get a chance. That could be part of the spin there as well. And a genuine one. Like it's not lying and being like, oh, well, we wanted to keep him but we thought it wasn't fair. He's too good. Obviously, that's not what's happening, but there are ways for everyone to get what they want, you know?
Yeah. They can, hey, look, Houston's looking for starting point guard. Tyler Kolek, step on down. Okay. I want to move on from the Tyler Kolek and Dadier of it all. The Knicks also have a new head coach. Mike Brown is his name. They are, again, in Abu Dhabi doing training camp stuff. Just let's kind of go back to when he was hired. My sense of just kind of how everything went down at the end of the year with Tibbs and then bringing in Mike Brown, and then you kind of see how Mike Brown is, just like the way he is, like how he reacts with the media, how he acts with his team, like his players and everything. I felt like I don't think Tibbs is a bad coach. I've never thought Tibbs is a bad coach.
Definitely not.
I think Tibbs has flaws. Every coach has flaws. We're going to learn about Mike Brown's flaws as the season goes on.
Every human, yeah.
No, not every human. I'm flawless.
You're right there. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I'm flawless. But like, I think that, like, there was, you could feel it last year, and it's weird because as fans, it's like there was a kind of a boredom to the entire season, like actual regular season, where it was like, we know what every game is going to look like because you literally never do anything different. And that is like fine. Like for us as fans, we feel that in terms of like, I would just like you to try something new. I think that's also real for players. Like, I think for players, it was like, we know what every game is going to be. The season is boring. And I think because the team was so talented, while that boredom didn't kill them against, whatever, 90% of the league, when you're kind of like just playing the same way and you're not really dialing it up and nothing, you could feel that difference, I thought, in games against the best teams in the league. And just forgetting even that part of it, I just felt like Tibbs is actually a pretty funny guy. I think he is pretty personable when it's not basketball, when it's not we're working right now. I think he can be a very personable guy. But I think this team needed a new voice, and I think they needed a new energy and just a new vibe to them. And obviously, you're not going to get it. You're not going to start making wholesale roster changes again to create a new vibe or something. I think that had to come from a change on the bench. And when I see Mike Brown and I see the way he interacts with his players, when I see and I just see how he interacts with the media, to me, he is a very big change from Tom Thibodeau. Like, I don't know that like, I'm not saying he's like the polar opposite or something like that, but I do think he is, he obviously spent time in Golden State, right? He spent time with the Spurs. These are different cultures than I think, than kind of like the very, especially Golden State, than like what Tom Thibodeau had created in New York. And it's a good thing that he had created in New York. I want to be clear. I'm not criticizing at all what Tom Thibodeau has done in New York, and what he kind of leaves as his legacy. But I think it was time for something new. I think it was time for a new voice. And I feel like the vibe I am getting from a lot of players in their quotes, and when I just see kind of the footage that's coming out from practices and stuff like that, I think that change in vibe is something that a lot of players maybe needed as well. And very much in particular, I think there are two players to me that more than anybody needed it. And one is not a surprise probably to anybody, is Mikal Bridges. The other one to me, though, is very like, I think people might think I'm being insane about this. I think it was Josh Hart. I think Josh Hart desperately needed a new coach. And that is because Tom Thibodeau gave him too much freedom, too much leeway. I don't think that there was any ability for Tibbs to pull back on Josh Hart because he valued him so much. He valued what he brought to the table so much. I'm not saying Mike Brown isn't good. Maybe Mike Brown is going to value Josh Hart just as much. I hope not, for all of our sakes and for Josh Hart's sake. But like, I think he needs a different coach. I think he needed a different coach to get back to cleaning up his game, because his game last year was super sloppy. His execution offensively, I thought everything. I mean, we don't even need to talk about the defense, which was like, dude, where even are you half the time? And I don't know. So forgetting about that, but do you feel like? Because I mean, you've been around the team more than I have for sure. But do you feel like there was a little bit of like lethargy and just kind of like, okay, we already know we've been with this guy now for so long that there was kind of a complacency that sets in sometimes. And I think, do you think that that was something that needed to change? And do you think that Mike Brown's kind of energy and the more like vibrant joy, I guess, that he coaches with, do you think that is something that is good for this team?
Yeah. I wrote some notes while you were talking just so I didn't forget to address like any one part of what you were saying. I think the quick hitters would be, yes, I think it would take following the team pretty closely to come to the conclusion that there was a banality to the day in, day out of it all. But I think it's a fair conclusion and also one indicative of good observation to make. I think, and I'm not saying other coaches don't do this, but what the players are so much smarter about the game of basketball than the fans, right? So what does that say when the fans knew after seeing a third open layup for the other team that it was going to be inbound, mid-pace dribble, right past half court, and then like a plane landing towards the sideline, timeout, New York. Like there was something to the consistency that almost resulted in someone's favorite food in the world going from their favorite food in the world to having it 3 times a day, making them want to vomit. I'm not saying Thibodeau made Knicks players want to vomit, but I think if Thibodeau was a food, they wouldn't eat the same food all day, every day. They'd have a balanced diet if they had the choice. And I think Brown as a coach, especially with Deuce McBride's comment that he listens a lot, I think Brown kind of represents that balanced diet because
he said something funny. He said, I think he said like he lets us talk or something like that.
It implied that it was like what's different. It was like what's different, and Deuce was like he's interested in what we have to say. And then Ian Begley, who I love so dearly and who I'm like really honored to consider a mentor and who I'm proud to say is someone that's given me pointers on this game, immediately was like, this was not criticism of Tom Thibodeau. McBride, when asked about Thibodeau, was very deferential and grateful of his teachings. And it was like, yeah, I don't think it invalidates anything Tibbs did for Deuce's career that he taught him, for us to notice that when he was asked what's different and he said, we can talk now. Like, I think that's exactly what it sounds like. I don't think it needs to be deeper than that. Also, like, I don't know, maybe it's not the biggest deal in the world that they didn't feel 100% listened to before, but if it kept being a problem, we all know, like, sometimes you're having a rough day with your parents and then they throw something that wasn't supposed to go in the laundry because you had something in your pocket right in the laundry. And they're like, oh, we did you a favor. We did this for you. And you're like, I'm going to burn this house down right now. Like, obviously, it's not your parents doing your laundry that upset you. It was a million other things. That was the toothpick on the camel's back. I think the players, this is what I really wrote down, was not only do I think it was time, the organization thought it was maybe time for a new voice. I think the players themselves were ready for one, even if they didn't know it conscientiously, and some did.
Well, I just think all the comments after they lost Game 6 the Pacers, like, look, Brunson gets up there and he just says the same, like he's gonna say the same fucking thing no matter who's
Every
the
time.
coach. Yeah, he's just gonna say
If he scores 100, if he ties Wilt's record and they lose,
I got to be better.
Listen, I kind of it's just hard to think about scoring production right now because given the result tonight, it's not what we wanted. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. He's just gonna say so he's gonna say the same fucking thing no matter what. So
okay.
I don't doubt that he has a genuine love for Tom Thibodeau. And honestly, like in his head, he's probably just like, whatever, it's my fault. Tibbs couldn't do anything. Tibbs is great, whatever. But like, I thought Josh Hart said a few things after that game, which like, and we know he loves Tom Thibodeau. And there's no doubt in my mind he was not working to like, I mean, some of us playing that series, you might be tricked, but like he was not working to get Tom Thibodeau fired. But like he made some interesting comments.
Be cordial.
He made some interesting comments in that after that series, and then obviously Deuce McBride. I thought his comments after that loudest. Game 6, they were the loudest, especially because again, it's like I don't know how to put this, but when Jimmy Butler, right, when he wants to make a point, he's like very obviously trying to make a point. He's like very, 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 very clearly trying to do it.
You're saying that dyeing his hair the colors of the teams rumored to be trading for him was a little too obvious? You think that was a little too on the head?
Yeah, but like I didn't think when Juice said what he said, I don't think he was saying that to like throw shade at Tibbs.
That's what Begley was saying.
He's just saying it because he's like, this is literally how I feel. This is just like my actual thoughts on what happened this year. And like what he said in training camp, it's like, I don't think he's trying to throw shade at Tibbs, but he is throwing shade at Tibbs, even if that's not his intention, because it's revealing how he feels about things. And I just think it was obvious from those post-game comments after that series. And then, we got that fucking Athletic article that was like, what was it? It was like 10 seconds after the series was over. That was like, so the Knicks with the Eastern
everyone hates Cat.
Yeah,
that was crazy.
So the Knicks made the Eastern Conference Finals. Here's why everything on this team is fucking horrible. But in that article, the shit that I actually took a lot from, or that I thought resonated the most, was just like they had 50 million players meetings last year to like try to constantly get everybody on the same page, get everything together. And they said even in the playoffs that was happening during the fucking Pacers series, it happened. Like that to me spoke to a team that maybe I don't know what Tibbs was or was not doing to kind of try to help coalesce the group, but he was not reaching them, and their accountability was coming from each other, right? They were having to hold themselves accountable, each other accountable, and that's fine. That's good. You want that. Like you want your team to be able to look at each other in the locker room and be like, listen, I need you to do this and not fuck this up. I need you to do that and not fuck that up. And like, that's a good thing to have. But when that accountability is only coming, from each other, from your peers, and not from, effectively in the hierarchy of the organization, your immediate superior kind of, your superior officer. There you go. But like your boss, right? I think that is
Thibodeau. I'm out, man. I'm out.
You think he's just gonna blow up? He's just gonna blow up Alderaan?
Blow it? No, more like there has to be some joke of like he's gonna blow up like the whatever site the public uses to get access to true shooting percentage data or screen assist data. He's gonna blow up Bart Torvik headquarters.
No, it's the donut place that Josh Hart likes in Indiana. That one. But I think that spoke to it to me. That was like that's all I really needed to hear or read in a lot of ways. Was like, okay, so all this stuff we've been feeling about as fans, right? Like something is off with this team, even though like it's crazy, right, to think about it because they beat the Pistons, they upset the Celtics in like that game 6 is like one of the great Knicks games of all time. And even then, like they lose to the Pacers, and obviously the way you lose game 1 is horrific. But the game 2 loss was even not worse, but it was like more revealing in some ways. And
because they didn't go back to that lineup, the one lineup that worked in game 1. They didn't play for a second in game 2.
They also like he put Campaign in, who was terrible. He called the timeout because Campaign was terrible, and they came out of the timeout and Campaign was still in. And I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me.
You know whose career DPM projection is like 3 times the size of either Clarkson or Brogdon's next year is Campaign.
So I have a feeling that I have a feeling Darko is a fucking Ponzi scheme. I
brought that up for a reason. Yeah.
But I do think that like all that stuff, it needed to change. And I don't know, I guess, do you get the sense that like the team is taking kind of what Mike Brown is selling, and they're maybe not just receptive is one thing, but do you think that it is kind of like, it's almost like this is what they needed. They did need this new voice, this new guy, this new energy, and a coach who like, look, we only got we got a clip out of training camp here, but you can see like what they're working on, and you're like, that offense looks quite different. Like that looks quite different than what the Knicks are doing. Like, do you think these are all the things that they needed? And I guess
yes.
Well, then, and then I guess, and you might have a good idea of this better than me, would be, is this ultimately, like the stuff that we're seeing them do and react to, like, is all of that in totality what pushed the front office to make such a significant change on the coaching staff, even though, as you earlier have said today and on previous pods that you've done here with us, that like they didn't view last year as a title or bust type of season. But that it was more like, even though we almost exceeded expectations in our results,
we don't like how we did it
here. The processes that are in place, like we don't think that what you did is actually going to get us to where we ultimately feel we need to get to.
Yeah, I think like, and I'm not trying to sound like an ass, but like when they made this coaching change, I was like, this is why they did it. And it's all the things you just said. Because it was easy to do that. Why? Because Mike Brown and Tom Thibodeau have been coaching in the NBA for as long as I've been alive. God damn it. So there's enough precedent and proof for me to look at what each brings to the table and say, they wanted to get away from this and go towards this. I'm not talking about, this rookie player and this sophomore player. Well, this indicates, no, these are two very known quantities of coaches. I would say Tom Thibodeau's analytical adaptation over the course of his New York tenure was about 4 times as extreme as the average NBA fan was expecting from him. He was like letting quickly pull from 29 feet because he knew it was inefficient look for them. Like, this is a guy who was willing to adapt. When it came down to it, he was not willing to adapt as quickly or as rapidly. If you need me to buy you time here, go ahead. He was not willing to adapt as quickly or as rapidly as the Knicks front office would have liked. I think it all stems back to, and I'm not saying there's one reason why Thibodeau got fired. I think the anecdote that I shared and reported of the front office approached him during the Boston series with a starting lineup change. He said, thanks, but no thanks. I'm not going to mess with success. We're up to nothing. This is okay. The front office was like, you were down 20 in every single game you've played this series at some point in the second half. Not cool. Let's switch it up. And he was like, but we won. And the Knicks front office said, okay, the point of having a coach is not to have someone click enter on AI prompts to decide what to do with the team. It's to have someone have opinions and prejudices and biases that you trust over other people's opinions, prejudices, and biases. I think what the Knicks ended up looking at was wanting to find a world where they could get a coach who brings what they believe Tom Thibodeau brings to the table that was really great, and then has a different set of flaws. Maybe that can be masked by the roster. Maybe that will become irrelevant because of what the pros are. Like, whatever it is, I really doubt that we're going to get to the end of Mike Brown's coaching tenure in New York and there's going to be a consensus that he never erred in his ways. Right? Like, that's not going to happen. So, and even if they end up winning a championship, it's going to be able to be, you're going to be able to say they could have done this better. The point is, it didn't matter in the end. I think that's what the Knicks are banking on here, is no one is going to talk about how they fired their coach after their first conference finals appearance in 2.5 decades, except to credit them, if that's how it gets brought up. I would say it just won't get brought up at all if they win a championship. That's
I think you're right. I think that if they win a championship, like, he would definitely get credit. Like, he deserve it. Like, he was part of the process to turn things
absolutely
around.
Yeah. So,
and I think like the stuff that became, like you mentioned, there was like a banality to their approach last year.
It was predictable. Predictability is never great.
But predictability is effectively like repetition, right? It's having a routine.
Yes.
And I think having that routine from day one, when Tom Thibodeau got here, that is part of why they were able to turn things around. It's why he's won so many regular season games and won a lot in his career as a head coach. It's not because
he brought organization to an organization without any organization. That was really, really valuable.
And like, I think that was kind of part of the idea with him, where it was like, hey, like,
yes,
like if I'm Leon Rose, I'm like, okay, look, I'm going to take this job. I have worked with the Knicks many times. I've actually had much success swindling them for my clients. And based on that, I know they're stupid. Like, I need to have people there that I trust. I need to have somebody there that I know can do the things that I need to get like just done. I need to get these things done so that we can get to where we want. And I think having Tibbs initially, and it's why I was a fan of hiring him. Like, I thought he was a good hire. I flat out like remember that.
He was my pick for the job.
Yeah, I think he was both of our picks for the job. I think that's where I ended up. But like, it is because of those things that you were able to have the success you had. But sometimes, like, you need more, and you need somebody that can step outside of the norm and push different buttons and try different things and think about how these pieces and players and all these things can work in a different way.
Can I cut you off here and say, like, yeah. Does Mike Brown play centers at point guard? That's a serious question. Like, yes or no? Does he play centers at point guard? No, right? No? Okay. Does he play 5 point guard lineups or 5 power forward lineups ever? So, no, right? So, it's not that they were like, hey, we need to ditch this traditionalist basketball coach and go hire the next MIT dropout genius who is flipping the game on its head. Like, they were like, no. The flexibility was worth that much to them. The flexibility, the lack of rigidity, the strong, prominent fundamentals and principles that dictate what a Mike Brown basketball team looks like on your television screen within those 94 feet of hardwood, that was part of it. The other part of it was his malleability. And for the Knicks front office, this is everything they wanted. And I don't think they fired Tom Thibodeau thinking to themselves in the moment, there is a very strong chance we hire Mike Brown. There's 100% chance. Like, they went with an open mind into the coaching search, and they knew what they wanted.
I mean, that's why I hated the way the entire thing was framed, because I was like, well, how could you fire Tom Thibodeau without having a replacement lined up? And it's like, one, I don't know when it turned from like there was a time I remember when it was a good thing to like do a full vetted search for a coach. I know that like that apparently changed this offseason in the NBA, where every team was like, no, we're hiring our guy. We're hiring
the San Antonio Spurs. Mitch Johnson hire was like my All Things NBA from A to Z show. Zach Noble, my co-host, like I like to like poke and prod him about that. I'll be like, oh, dude, you spent as much time thinking of that as like the Spurs coaching search. And he's like, I can't believe they did that with Wembanyama. Like,
I mean, yeah, that one was weird. Then there was the what was it? The Kings. They were just like, yeah, we're good with Doug Christie, I guess. It's like, okay, I guess.
That happened so fast that it made me almost think, like, was Perry the best GM that agreed to keep Kris?
Well, that too. Yeah. Well,
Because,
that was other. Yeah, that was
like,
it was
a
weird.
strange pairing for them to be like, well, we're gonna go in a different direction from McNair, but we're gonna keep the exact same interim coach. He's the guy now. Screw it. Okay.
Yeah. So I think, but yeah, I just thought it was weird because it's like, dude, once you have determined internally that this guy is not going to do the things that we feel need to be done to give us the best chance of winning a championship, then you should move on from that coach. And it is okay. It's actually completely okay to not have an idea of who you want, but understand what attributes you would like the next coach to have. And I think they had an idea
hand with the girlfriend thing. Like, you don't need to have your next 4 first dates lined up to break up with your current girlfriend who things are not working with. Like, you're wasting her time by not just ending it. You know what I mean? Like, what?
Yeah.
Why do you need to have 8 of America's Next Top Models lined up for crappy Soho dinners over the next 4 weekends when you already know you're unhappy where you're at right now? Just do something about it. Obviously, it's different. Right. NBA teams need a head coach. You are not legally mandated to have a girlfriend at all times. So it's not like, you know, there's no off season where you're like, okay, it's okay if we don't have a girlfriend right now, but by September we got to have one in place. Like, maybe some millennials operate that way, but like other than that, I think like that's a good analogy where it's like, yeah, if you're not happy with what you have going on, think about why, think about exactly why, and then start making lists of things you would look out for in other people, in potential partners, of things you would want to avoid, things that you've now realized are red flags that you may not have previously seen that way. The other example, the other way around, things that you thought were red flags that now you actually might want to look for in someone at this stage in your life. Things are different. You've got a job now, 2 dogs, like life changes, right? So you went from having a point guard competition the season before Tom Thibodeau joined the Knicks of Alonzo Trier and RJ Barrett and Alfred Payton starting point guard competition. But then the first year after Tom Thibodeau, you are starting Brunson, Bridges, and Anunoby Towns, and a mystery 5th player to be named at a later date, potentially tomorrow afternoon. So, or tomorrow at noon. So, yeah, I think what you were saying goes right hand in hand with that analogy I've been using of like the girlfriend thing.
Yeah, it's whatever they and look, I think they've kind of operated the entire summer like that, where it was like, okay, we're not sure who the head coach is, but we know what we want. Okay, and then they land on Mike Brown, and then it's like, okay, now we need to refill the coaching staff, and their timeline was different, obviously, because they took their sweet ass time doing it. But they eventually got the guys and got people that they wanted on the staff.
And hey, to your point about Dadier and McBride, sorry, last thing, and then I'll shut up. But to your point about Dadier and McBride, where like you can have trade conversations for the sake of figuring things out. I remember a member of the Knicks beat reporting like consistently that the Knicks were looking into coaches at the collegiate level for their coaching vacancy. And then magically Billy, right? So like so the Knicks hire Billy Lange, St. Joseph's University, Hawk Never Dies, A10 shout out, head coach, right before the college basketball season starts. And it's like, oh, maybe that's someone they talked to before. Maybe they didn't speak to him for the very first time when they said, would you like to join Mike Brown's staff? Like you have to do things to learn things. Sometimes you have to do those things under the guise of those things being something else. Like sometimes you have to shop around, or you have to be willing to hear teams out on McBride and Dadier to get a sense of what they're looking for, what they're willing to give up, and if their valuation of someone like Kolek or Hukporti or McCullough is up to snuff with what you want. So anyway, that's all for me. I just thought that tied together this whole thing nicely, with the aspect of like the Knicks do things, and it's not always because they want to do the thing that it was rumored that they did. It was because they wanted to learn something.
Yeah. All right. Last thing before we get out of here, you mentioned it right there at the end. Fifth starter. Obviously, the candidates apparently Mitchell
Mitch.
Robinson, Josh Hart, Deuce McBride. Do you think that there is a organizational preference for what they would like there? Do you think Mike Brown has a preference? And I guess like, or do you think it's more like even if that preference exists, they're gonna let things play out and maybe even switch up during the season to get a better idea of kind of how it all works out?
That one. That one. Exactly what you just said. I co-sign every syllable of it. There's no reason for me to add more or pretend like I have inside information that goes beyond the depths of what you just said. Mike Brown is open, but he is also principled. Mike Brown is malleable, but he also is not just goo or liquid. Like he is slime, maybe, right? Like it's got some firmness to it, but you can also change it how you'd like. You'll never be able to change it from being slime, but you can shape it like a square or a circle or a dodecahedron. Up to you. God bless. Like that is, I think, the thing here. Now, I spoke on Locked On Knicks. I want to say damn near a month ago at this point, saying I think Mitchell Robinson is probably going to be the fifth starter. If you looked heavily into the jersey color thing, yeah, maybe your takeaway was it looks like it's going to be Mitch. My takeaway was they're trying everything, right? Mitch one day, they made a big show of being like, Hart will wear it the next day. Like, I just think like they're open to whatever. Now, Brown, I know for sure that Brown was the candidate that the Knicks truly, like, deeply, thoroughly interviewed. That was the highest on the offensive potential of the Brunson and Towns duo. So does that tell you a little bit about, what you were, this goes back to what you were talking about, where it's like, maybe the way to change things up wasn't to trade half the roster. It was just to change the coach and make a couple tweaks to the second unit. Aha, right? Like, there you go. So that ties in right there. Also, like, I just think the Josh Hart injury thing is something that had not been accounted for when I was told what I was told from several different places about it seeming likely that Mitchell Robinson was going to be that fifth starter. So maybe the Hart injury news changes that in the sense where they try him first and they see, hey, if we put you out here with the best players that we have, will you have to do less offensively to an extent where we're quite all right with your injury and we're not straining you at a less integral part of the season relative to say a March ramp up. Maybe, right? Or maybe they say, you've got this finger thing. Now we were truly 50-50 before, 51-49, whatever. Now we're actually just going to go with Mitch. Like that's an unknown. That's a variable. And from what I can tell, like sitting there at media day, with Josh talking about his finger and like sheepishly looking behind him and he literally said he thinks the Knicks PR team wants to strangle him before going into even more details about how he re-aggravated the injury. Like he said, he literally said, and I know they don't want me to say anything, but and then got into like, this seems like a recent development to me. This seems like a pretty recent development. To the extent where I wouldn't be surprised if at media day they didn't know exactly what was going to happen this season. I wouldn't rule out anything.
Yeah. I'm open to Josh Hart. Look, the lineup should not have been as bad as it was last year. I have the reasons why it ended up being as bad as it were are numerous, and I've discussed them plenty of times. My gut instinct is that like it is not our best lineup and will never be our best lineup. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Mike Brown is going to figure that out. So I'm open to him trying it out, seeing what it looks like with kind of his system in place, his principles in place, his style of play in place. I'm open to that. I will say the one thing that would annoy me greatly is if Deuce McBride is at least not given an honest chance at it. I'm not like committed to one thing here. I think I think they need to develop the ability to use all three of those guys as like the fifth player in the lineup.
Scheme versatility, name of the game.
But like I think I personally, this is me, I think Deuce and Mitch are the two that are like pretty easily the best options to me because both of them offer advantages that accentuate the strengths of your best players in some situations and also mitigate their weaknesses. And I don't think Josh Hart does that as good as he is. So that's kind of where I fall on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think all of this ties into why they hired Brown. You know? Like this all ties into that. Like they don't know exactly who they're going to start. That's awesome. They'll figure it out. Right? Like they don't need to know going into game 1 who's going to start game 20. The last 3-4 years of Knicks basketball, you knew based on who started game 2 who was going to start game 19. I would probably be surprised if the Knicks starting lineup was the same in game 2 as it was in game 19, because I think there's a chance that Mike Brown, even if just to start the season, approaches things schematically to an extent where, like, shout out to Nemo in the chat is saying, what about variable starting lineups? It's an easy way out to avoid being stuck to any option. Yeah, right. Like the notion that, let me put it like this. It's okay for it to both be true that a starting lineup playing more than once every 3 nights is good for team chemistry, and a starting lineup playing a once every 3 nights and it being a different rotating lineup all the time, like, I mean, no rhyme or reason, or even if there is rhyme or reason with regard to like scheme matchups, a constant revolving door of fifth starters or whatever, like that's not going to be good for team chemistry nor morale, I would think. But there can be a middle ground. Like it doesn't have to be like Nets Kenny Atkinson or Bulls Tom Thibodeau, and there's nothing in between. Brown is supposed to be that in between. We'll see. We'll see the extent to which he lives up to that. But I'm of the opinion that he got the job in part because he's that. So I would think so long as he likes having a job, he will be himself and not feel forced to be who the Knicks want him to be. The Knicks, if they wanted, someone to just get a lineup card from the analytics department and go out and give it to the umps and, not really actually make decisions and then tell media after the game that like they're happy with what they're doing and they think the process is good and why is it good? Because I said so. Like this is not the kind of approach you're going to see from this Knicks team. Kind of the final loop back, and then I think we'll have closed every open loose end here. Like you were talking about Brown's personality. There was a point in media day where he addressed the camera directly. He looked to the back of the room and addressed the cameras directly to give a shout out to some friends at home. And like, maybe this is just like a modern media thing where like Brown's slightly younger than Thibodeau to the point where, he's a little more technologically friendly or experienced to where like Tom Thibodeau is so used to locker rooms before and everyone was standing there like this.
Fakeogram.
Yeah, facegram. So like, Tom would just talk to the reporters. The cameras were there because they had to be there. I think Brown literally breaking the fourth wall, looking right into the camera in the back of the room and being like, and shout out to my people in Westchester County. And I was like, you are not that passionate about Westchester County. Like, there's no way. But that's how he showed out for his people that he wanted to shout out. Like, that's what it was. Like, it's not better. It's not better. It's not superior. It is different. And Sam Quinn with CBS, tweeted this months ago. Mike Brown doesn't have to be better than Tom Thibodeau, doesn't have to be a better coach or a better Knicks coach for this hire to work out. He just needs to be a different one in all the right ways. Easier said than done, but Brown looks like he's doing the right things thus far.
Yeah. I think that's probably the best way to put it. I mean, and also like, I mean, I know I highly, highly doubt he would ever be the fifth starter, but even like somebody like Yabusele, right? Like he's a player, again, not a fifth starter, but like he can definitely, there's definitely gonna be lineups when he plays with Cat or plays with Mitch or even plays the five. Like
if Cat's out for a game, I could see Hart and Yabu starting, and Hart being like the rebounding supplement. You know,
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things they can do. So I'm very interested to see what this group looks like under a different coach. You know, and they've targeted some players, and I think there was always versatility on this roster, even last year, that just wasn't exploited much. You know, Yabusele being one, but like even a guy like Huck Porty, I mean, I remember being frustrated earlier in the early parts of the season where it was like, look, you played the guy in the third game of the year against the fucking Cavs. He actually looked pretty good. And like, you know, then he starts the game against the Nets or whatever it was. He played big minutes, I think. Sim started. But like, and look, it's unfortunate for Huck Porty. He gets hurt in his first start, right? They start him and he gets hurt in that game. I forgot when it was. Might have been late February, March, whatever it was. But like, he's a player where I'm like, I don't know. Like, I think they kind of might have hit on a 58th pick again. And like, to me, he's a lot more promising than Jericho Sims just because he's bigger. Like he's actually center size. And I don't know. I'm interested to see what a lot of these pieces look like with a coach that's a little bit more. Again, I don't think Mike Brown is like crazy mad scientist, but I do think that he is definitely more willing to experiment and push guys into different spots than Tibbs was. I think Tibbs was like willing to experiment with like, okay, I'll play Quickly and Brunson together, but as soon as it's nut crunching time, I will not do that actually. And we saw that last year, right? Where it was like one of our best lineups in the playoffs in the regular season, and it has been one of our best lineups or combinations anyway, was Deuce with Brunson. And like you talked about, you know, them going to Tibbs, the front office anyway, and being like, hey, maybe change the starting lineup here. Like you can just say, forget changing the starting lineup. If he just simply played guys like Deuce more, you would have benefited. I mean, you probably at least win game one against Indiana instead of the fucking horrific loss you have. So I think just pushing some of these buttons that already existed and just being willing to like trust something that is working versus I know it's working, but I don't fully trust this for reasons that are my own. And therefore I will try the thing that isn't working, but I believe should work no matter what. And I think that just being a little bit more willing to like,
which was process over results in a way of its own.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It was process over results in a way of its own, which I think is important, right? Like the Knicks are still process over results, and they hired Tom Thibodeau kind of in the first place because he's so strongly process over results. The Knicks just decided that they really loved Tom Thibodeau. They really loved the basketball coach he is, and that with the roster they had, that was much different than the roster they started with Thibodeau and the roster Thibodeau had in his third year and in his fourth year. Like, they just wanted a different process. Getting a different process doesn't mean you need to go get someone who would make the opposite decision of the last guy, right? Like, if you have a coach who likes to play, 7-8-man rotations and a lot of drop coverage, you don't need to go hire someone who plays 11-man rotations and switches everything every game. That's not my point either. My point is just, and Jeremy Cohen always put this so well and bluntly when he said, is there a way to get enough of what you like about Tom Thibodeau from another coach while also getting things that Tom Thibodeau doesn't have from that other coach? Like, Jeremy always challenged the notion that there was one basketball coach on the planet Earth that wanted to win every game they coached. And there was somehow pushback on that. So like, I think they found their guy in Brown. That's kind of why they hired him to a 5-year deal, right? Like I said, they weren't like, oh, we got to cover up this Tom thing. We did bad.
Yeah, I mean, and look, they extended Tom last year, and his extension is just kicking in right now. So
his parachute is shimmering gold. Like they Leon Rose
this economy.
They took care of their people. They took care of their people, and they made the best basketball moves for the New York Knicks at the same time. I remember the doom and gloom from people who swore up and down that the Knicks were going to cut every player they had that wasn't willing to sign with CIA for representation. Like, it's just both at once. Like they happen to have some different key CIA guys, and they try and do right by players no matter what agency they come from. Those things don't have to be mutually exclusive.
Yeah, well, look, we got a clutch guy on the team. We got Clarkson's here, so Rich Paul, send over LeBron James next year on a veteran minimum. We'll take him. Okay, I think that's a good place to end this. Kris, thank you so much for your time. Let people know where to find you and plug anything you'd like to plug.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I always plug my Twitter on these things and such, but I'll just say, you can look up my name. This is the one fortunate thing about having such a screwed up name is that no one else has it. So if you look me up, the stuff will come up. Clutchpoints.com. I write about basketball mostly. That's NBA and WNBA. And then YouTube, all things NBA from A to Z, or wherever you get your podcasts, Amazon, iHeart, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, like all things NBA from A to Z. It's a podcast presented by ballislife.com. We just had an episode go out today, October 1st, about 7 teams that we think should be buyers ahead of next year's deadline. And they have varying degrees of need and varying degrees of like contention ability. But it's 7 teams that we think should buy. And we recently did a video with some other teams we think should be buyers. And we recently did a video with some teams we think we should be sellers. So that leaves one category, the true blue-blooded contenders. We'll get to those soon. But for now, you have those 3 recent episodes and a Knicks post-media day preseason episode that you can go check out over there, where I give a lot of the same insights that I did on this episode, but at the bequest of my guy Jarv from the Infinity Sports Network and the Fan, who did the questioning and helped lead the discussion. So all good stuff. And Schwinn, I appreciate much the opportunity to plug and chug away, but also just to come hang out and chat. I saw some nice comments. Nemo, Ben, BKG, my guy, Ace. So yeah, shout out to y'all in the chat. James, David, Coach, Costa. Shout out to the people in the chat. Appreciate y'all.
That was very, very eloquently done, Kris. Thanking everybody in the chat. Very, very good job. Thank you to everybody in the chat. I'm not going to name everybody because I'm not a kiss ass like Kris.
I need to find things to throw so I can.
There you go. I will thank our sponsor, FanDuel. Thank you so much for sponsoring us, FanDuel. You're the best. I'm not going to plug personally, so I'll just plug all the way at Strickland. Check it out.
So I'm a bad guy.
Yeah, you're terrible. You suck. I will be doing a pod probably on Friday. So that will either be out Friday evening or Saturday morning. So be on the lookout for that. Other than that, that is our show for today. Thanks to everybody that joined us for the live stream. We'll have this up on audio soon enough. And until then, peace.